one and all to this live market update and charts of the day. Fantastic to see you here. Thank you very much for popping in. Whether you're watching this live or whether you're playing catch up later on, it's always a pleasure to share some stuff with you about what's happening in markets today. Of course, we'll do some headlines and then we'll see. We'll see if we can find a chart or two that's of interest. I just want to pop up this important message just to make sure that you are fully aware that this is for educational purposes only. Please make sure you do your own due diligence on anything you see or hear. Make sure that you follow trade plans, of course, um, and manage risk on every trading action consistent with your own personal circumstances and financial situation. So let's get into some headlines, shall we? And try and unpick what's going on and what's driving markets today. Of course, we saw an uptick last night in US equities, regaining some of the losses from that we sustained earlier in the week. US government shutdown continues, which of course means data. Well, some of the key data is still not being released. Jobs data notable this week as it is the first week of the month, of course. Earnings season continues to remain positive, and that's holding markets up okay. One of the things that was really interesting that was reported is that there's obviously been some debates in the US about how legal Trump's tariffs are. And that's not been questioned by the Supreme Court. So it's not a gimme that they're going to tick it all off and say, well, actually, it's all okay. So just watch this space on that as a headline at this stage. It's not really impacting markets, but it may do if they come down and offer some sort of ruling on that. US futures just above neutral so far today when I last looked a few minutes ago. Asian markets are following that US lead. ASX is up sort of around about the 0.5% level, and European futures are pointing to a cautious open. In the FX world, the US dollar index looks positive generally this week. Gold is looking to retest 4,000, sitting underneath it at the moment. Copper did test support earlier in the week, but is had a little bounce and so remains range bound. And oil slides again towards the bottom of the range. Bitcoin, after a 10% drop over a couple of days, actually held on okay yesterday. We saw a little bounce. So it held that key psychological $100,000 support. We'll check out a chart in a moment, of course, that and everything else that we've talked about so far today. Apart from earnings and trade news, which of course will continue to be important, it is the UK rate decision today, expected to be a pause. In the US, as I said, we potentially could have some weekly employment data tonight, but that's not going to come out with government still being shut down. Likewise with the non-farm payrolls jobs data not likely to be released tomorrow. Anyway, that's where it is for right now. So that's you caught up with the headlines. Let's just see what the charts are doing. Actually, let's just see if we can just access some internet. Yeah, so you should be able to see on your chart now just what happened to the US last night. And you can see that we did actually sort of just come off in the last hour or so. We were up almost a percent on the Nasdaq, but just dropped in, as I said, in the last hour there. Just some short-term intraday traders taking advantage of that move of around about 200 points to the upside. You can see that once again, big tech didn't do so well. Nvidia and Microsoft both dropping. We did see some recovery in Amazon, Tesla, Google, and Meta, though. So look at the futures for right now. You can see pretty flat, but they've dropped off a little bit since I last looked. Let's say cautious expectations around what may happen in Europe. We've got a little bit of weakness in the USD. Bitcoin looks as though it's selling again. And we've got gold and copper looking pretty flat. Pretty ordinary market this morning, to be absolutely honest. Let's just check in on some data. Really, we haven't got a great deal of significance coming out until that rate decision later on this afternoon from the UK. German industrial production might be interesting to see. We are expecting a tick up in that. Um, and then later on, we're not likely, as I said, to get those. We're not likely to get any employment data out. And if we look tomorrow, we've got a few of the Fed members speaking tonight, which might be interesting. Remember, in fact, we've got a lot of them speaking tonight, six of them, seven of them at various points. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see the narrative that they uniformly present. Fed, Fed Chairman Powell was a little twitchy about that inflation number being a little high. You can see tomorrow, no sign of non-farm payrolls there. We have got some Canadian jobs, so it's going to be the consumer sentiment, inflation expectations. That consumer sentiment might be very interesting out of the University of Michigan. Trade balance also out of China will be noteworthy in the as will the trade balance out of Germany tomorrow, just to sort of start to gauge what's happening exactly with tariffs, etc. So, a couple of things there of note tomorrow, but obviously the biggie isn't there. Let's have a look at some charts. Um, there's the um, there's our dashboard panel. You can see there the euro's looking quite strong this morning. Not much movement in commodities. Oil is just popped up to the upside, bit of flatness as we've already talked about in commodity futures. Generally speaking, we didn't actually have a look at the ASX. Let me just get the latest scores on the doors in the ASX. Yeah, up 0.3. It's just pulled back a little bit from its high. Just resources are doing pretty well today. They outperform as a sector. They're up in excess of 1% to the upside. So, right, let's have a deeper dive on some of this. Let's have a look at the Nasdaq. So you can see there that bounce. Not surprisingly, um, this was the story of yesterday. Really, the last couple of days of selling saw some recovery, some buying pressure coming back in. So you can see the bounce off what is a resistance at around what was a resistance around about 25,285. So we've bounced off that, which is now support. As I said, a little bit shy today. You can just see that pullback, and only after the markets closed on the futures contract, but a continuation of that in Asia. It doesn't look as though it's a massive sell at this stage, but it is noteworthy. Here's the US dollar. You can see the strength in that, pretty neutral today, but we are tackling the 200 MA on the USD, and a key resistance was breached. So interesting to see where that goes to next. Um, so we've had a flat day, a little bit down today. Um, is gold benefiting? Well, it is, but not really dramatically. So gold is sitting within a range. We had that big drop a couple of weeks ago, down through 4,000. So you can see currently we're trading around about 3,989. Um, so just underneath that psychological 4,000 level on gold. If we look at the shorter term time frame, looks really, really uncertain about what to do next. Wouldn't be even looking at this unless we get a breach either of those two levels. I'd actually probably put that to 4,000 anyway. But a breach to the downside of 39.57 may see us drop another $20 or so down to this support here. As I said, copper is had a better day yesterday, bounced again off support 490, tackling that again as key psychological level of $5. Seems to be the story, doesn't it? Really. As I said, oil is looking a little shaky. Another soft day yesterday. This here is 4-year lows. So we look as though we could just drift down in that general direction over the course of the next few days. In terms of a short-term opportunity, we are in a fairly tight range for right now. So very tight range for right now, actually, for this time of day. So looking a little lost. Could be a short opportunity here if we breach 59.75. Keep that on your radar, perhaps. And as for Bitcoin, well, that was that 10% drop we talked about in the test of lows not seen since June. We talked about that. That was the Bitcoin was the chart of the day yesterday. Um, but you can see that big bounce today, yesterday. Again, really, really similar story. In that we've got a key big round number in 100,000 and we bounced off that. So whether you're looking at copper or Bitcoin or gold, we're all sort of around those big numbers that market need convincing about. So very difficult, probably of the major assets that we're looking at that we've looked at so far. Possibly oil is one worth having a look at. Let's just have a quick look at Bitcoin on a shorter time frame. Now, again, you probably get interested in this if we sort of start to tackle these lows from yesterday and the day before. Into the FX world, see if we can find anything that's of interest here. Here's the US yen. Looks as though we're trading towards the bottom of the range. If we breach that, it's not really filling me full of inspiring sort of trade action type sort of mentality. This is again, we've got a key level that's been tested, bounced off 155. 154 looks important on the US yen. So not really jumping up and down about that. However, some significant move in the euro. We already referenced strength in the euro. Looking back at if we look at the FX scanner, you can see all of the euro crosses are looking pretty good. If we just tick on the, let me just do a little close of some charts here, so we can get some stuff up. Right, let's try now. There we go. So there's the euro yen, which is looking really, and that's that advantage of that scanner. So you can see there we're pushed apart against the resistance on the hourly chart. Which of this could lead us up to around about probably about 30 to 40 pips, maybe up to 177.55. As for the Euro USD, tackling the key level right now. Put it on a line chart, you can see this even better, of course. Just bring it up there, there you go. So a bit of a crossroads here. Are we going to bounce back and sort of pop right back down to this level here, which I think is probably, if we do get a retracement, 114.93. So that 115, nice round number again-ish. We've just poked our head through that. If we do breach it, possible move up. High probability move up, but it's not very many pips. It's only about 20 pips to the upside. Nevertheless, looks like a high probability trade. The Aussie yen looked as though it was having a really good day yesterday because of the yen weakness generally, but we're drifting back down again. So this rejection candle is interesting, but wouldn't get interested in that really. So let's just so with that euro strength, not mirrored in the GB pound at all. Let's just have a quick look at GB pound Kiwi. Got a bit of work to do to breach that to the resistance, but looks as though it's bounced nicely off support around about 230.20. We're at 231.12. It could be worth a watch. It's a little way off that. I would wait for a breach of 231. So we've probably got about 30 pips to go before that might light your candle. So let's look at the euro or the. No, I don't like that. We had a look at the GB pound Kiwi. The euro Kiwi is not quite as compelling. It's. I'm going to make my chart of the day the euro yen. Plus the 200 MA on the hourly chart. It's a scalp rather than a. Okay, so this is the range. If we do get a breach, this is the range you'd be looking at, really, I think. Let me just. So what's that? That's a move up to 177.53 potentially. So about 49 pips, isn't it? Um, so if we put the range identifier on there, you can see that range that we're in now and how that previous range was important. This is why this tool is actually quite good. Um, so, so yeah, that's my chart of the day. Euro yen, 1 hourly. Um, that is one to keep on your radar, perhaps. Hi, Brian. Hi, Wayne. Um, and all you other people in YouTube land. Let's look at the Canadian dollar. Canadian dollar yen looks as though there's a potential around about 109.30. Let's just have a look at that on the main chart as well. See, all the yen crosses are looking interesting. Even the GB pound. I like the euro because it's clean, but even this is looking sort of interesting. Let's just put it on the chart. I think that might get stuck there around about 45 pips. So probably about the same in the GB pound yen. Let's put the Canadian yen on there. Again, very similar story. This is a bit messier. Um, if we're looking at this, could get caught in the middle here. Maybe the upside on this is this retracement level, so I'm not liking that as much. So GB pound yen or euro yen both look interesting. Right, let's check out the ASX. A couple of ones we've been keeping an eye on of late. We talked about BVS potentially being a short. It's continuing downwards. Coal stocks have been really interesting, and you can see Yancoal there pushing up hard against the resistance at 565. There's a potential gap to fill. So for those of you slightly, you want a slight confirmation, 570 looks like the high probability area to keep an eye on. MYX, really interesting move. We've got a sort of absolute kill on this from corporate news. But you can see there the buyers are most certainly back in. We're well on the way to closing out. Let me just find out what happened with MYX. I'm just going to quick look now and see what the story is. Notification cessation of securities. That's interesting. Okay, performance rights. That's nothing that drama. Okay, there was it dropped because so Maine was going to be taken over by Cosette Pharmaceuticals, and essentially it's been rejected by the government. The FIRB. Thank you very much. I'm sure shareholders are the same, but that is why that was dropped, and now we're recovering. That's interesting. Interesting. Might be a very speculative move if you're interested in that, but certainly interesting. Let's have just a quick look at a couple of other coal stocks. Let's have a look at Whitehaven Coal, maybe. They're actually down. WGX, nothing to do with coal, of course, but an interesting gold stock nevertheless. Let's have a look at New Hope. Yeah, New Hope also looking interesting. I think the upside on this is really limited. All the gold stocks looking as though they're perky again today. It won't bounce off support. Um, there was one I wanted to have a look at, and I forgot what. AWC. We've got this on here. No, which there wasn't AWC. Oops. Right. Okay. Let's just check our. This is why we need an ASX scanner come in soon. AMC. Let's just have a look at an Amcor chart. How do you remember all the names? Oh, look, you just do. After a little while, they just sort of stick. Um, that is a nice move on Amcor. Very attractive. My guess is that that's probably on corporate news as well. Let me check that out for you right now. Um, so Amcor in the sort of packaging sort of sector. Uh, dividend distribution. Dividend. No, not sure. Not sure why Amcor is up. Can't see anything radical on this. It's Form 8K. Don't know what that is. Okay, they something through to the CC in the US. Oh, they're listing on the ASX. Sorry, on the NYSE. Oh no, first quarter. Yeah. They've done an earnings press release essentially in the US, which I guess they've got to do. Just fulfilling its responsibilities in the US. So I'm not really sure why it's moved as it has, but certainly that's an attractive move over resistance at 1265. Possible ultimate move up towards this level. Maybe a pause here. You can see it's actually paused there today. That was support. Got up to around about $13 again. One of those nice round numbers. That would be the level I'll be keeping an eye on. A breach of $30, $13, sorry, may give us a move up to around about 13.60. That's about 5%. So that's sort of interesting. Um, too early for NST. Struggling. No, that's not interesting me at all. Let's try and Dominoes. Okay. We talked about this actually before. We talked about it closing the gap, and it actually did that with a boom. So now we've breached key level at $20. Nice round number. Next port of call on this could be this 2145, 7%. I'm going to make that my chart of the day. I just wanted to check in on one more thing, which would be West African resources, which has had a good week. A move over $3 looks technically significant. Keep an eye on that, possibly. Yeah, I'm going to plant a flag in don't want a pizza. There we go. In the US, AMD, oh, a lot of the tech stocks bounce AMD. I really like move over 263 is what we're looking for. Also in that sector, semiconductors did really well. There's Micron. I think this is record highs on Micron by a distance. This company's a good company. Um, Let me just check in when its next earnings are due. I think it usually reports outside of the standard. Last reported in September, so it must be due. Must be due in December. Yeah, December the 16th, so you've plenty of time with that. So I like this. Micron's a good place to be. AMD's not a bad place to be either. Delta had a really good move to the upside. Nice bounce off the 200 MA. And then not jumping up and down about that, to be honest. And then Tesla also had a little bit of a bounce, which was noteworthy. So there was the record highs hit. What would that be? Thursday, Wednesday. That'd be Friday. Friday we hit 270. Sorry, 470. Possible move up to 500. Um, Wait for a breach of that if you're interested. But at this stage, mm, and then Robinhood released earnings yesterday. I think. Let's just do a quick look. This is the disadvantage of doing YouTube to between. Oh, it's beaten expectations. Let's just see. Let's just see what it is in 4% in after hours trading. So it's going to open. Oh no, it's not. It's down. Down 2%. There's been something wrong with revenue. Revenue was good. Crypto revenue has gone up. Customers up, but not quite as much as expected, I think. Yeah, okay. So they are down in after hours trading. But just keep an eye on this. I suspect there may be a good market response to this when it opens tonight. Watch for a breach of 151. Two to keep an eye on then in the US, AMD, and well, we know both at key levels. So there you go. I hope that's been useful, interesting, all that stuff. Thank you very much for popping in. Um, if you wouldn't mind popping a little like on the video as you go out, you have a wonderful day. We'll see some of you later, of course, if you're doing EA stuff. Mhm. But most importantly, take care. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Thank you very much for being here today. And I will talk to you very soon. See you later. Bye bye for now.